Hey, everybody. Hey! Yeah! Woo! Ah!
You look good, man. Yeah.
This is how I'm gonna walk on stage, just lose it. All right. Okay, you guys ready for this? Yeah. So I'm gonna use this. Will it last the whole time? Is it gonna cut out on me like Jason? Okay, so just a couple things. I'll just set it up and then I'm gonna dive in. So this is first time I've delivered this live, so bear with me. I've got some notes over there I may wander over if I feel like I lose myself. And my commitment is just to be a gift to you all and to yeah, so that's what I'm gonna get into it. Oh, motherfucker. All right.
Keep breathing.
Okay. All right, so let's get started here. Are we good with video, guys? Amazing video, guys. All right. I just walked on stage. I have a cold open for you. Okay. So the first thing I heard was a sound. A deep, guttural growl, like someone had started an engine nearby. And then I saw the lion. Her tail was lashing. Her ears were pinned back, and she was snarling with rage. And she was so close, by the time she stopped her charge, 6 feet from me, that sand flew up and hit me in the forearm. And when I saw her, something in my primal DNA switched on. Something I'd never felt before. It was like there was a flood of energy that went through my body. It was a cocktail of serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline, and creating an experience, an awakeness that I had never, ever felt before. And the craziest thing was that fear was not the dominant emotion. No, it was presence. I felt alive. You see, being charged by a lion happens so fast that all your blood drains from your body, your hands shake, and every cell in your body feels like a shockwave has gone through it. And then you instinctively grab your hands of people that you're tracking with and hold on tight, and before you know it, the lion's gone. And then you go and change your pants. Nailed it. And so it's just this wild thing is the force and the magnitude are otherworldly. I feel like everything in Africa, everything's bigger. It was like this line was shot out of a cannon at me. And at the time that this happened, I'd been working with some of the best trackers in the world. And so what's interesting is it was like I was looking for something. I was looking for something after my life had fallen apart, and I was trying to put myself back together. And so something about being out in nature seemed to just deeply connect to me and started to speak to me. And although it is really, really uncomfortable to track lions at times, and when you get charged by a lion, it can be very uncomfortable, it's not nearly as dangerous as people think it is. And I know that what you all think you want is to be safe. But what I've really learned is that it's the things that make me feel vulnerable. It's the things that are uncomfortable that are what we are actually looking for. And so that morning that we've been out tracking, we've been tracking for 4 hours and we hadn't seen anything. And it felt like one of those mornings where we just wouldn't see lions. And it was interesting because I'd been doing all of the searching for the lion, and eventually it was the lioness that found me. And isn't that funny how often that we just when we think that nothing good is going to happen, something really unusual occurs in our life. And so there was this moment where I realized that I wasn't just out there tracking lions. I was tracking myself. I was tracking aliveness. And something in me thinks that maybe you are too. And that might be why you're here. And so as I was looking at this lion as she charged me, snarling and aggressive, what she gave me was this incredible gift. She gave me an answer to a question I've been looking for 25 years. But in order to tell you about that, we've got to back up 25 years, back to when I was 15 years old. So oftentimes people ask me, how did you get into lion tracking? Like, how did you get into this thing? Why do you like going out tracking lions in the wild? And I tell them, I got to go back to when I was 15 years old, and it was the first time I'd seen a lion in a zoo. And at that time of my life, my family had moved, and I was having a hard time, adjusting to my new life. I was a really, really shy kid, believe it or not, when I was 15, and I couldn't make friends. I didn't know how to talk to girls in class, and so I was like this timidity had become like my identity, and I was essentially in this cage of my own making. And so I think in a desperate attempt to cheer me up, my parents take me to the zoo. And I just remember, like, they get us in the minivan, they get us to the zoo, it's Omaha, Nebraska, it's super humid outside. We go into the zoo, and I'm like a cranky teenager with no confidence, and like nothing is gonna cheer me up. Until I saw him. I saw him as I walked around the corner. And I noticed he was pacing with agitation. And you all probably remember the first time you ever saw a lion. And whether it was a zoo or whether it was the wild, you'll never forget it. And so the lion's pacing with agitation, and then he pauses and he swings his head towards me. And his golden eyes looked at me, and when it looked at me, it felt like he looked through me. And I didn't know what to do with that feeling in my body. And so something like starts to rise up in me as I'm looking at this lion. It's clear that this lion doesn't belong in the zoo. And so something awakens in me, and I don't know what to do with it. And this might have been one of like the saddest lions you could ever imagine. It's a 400-pound serial killer forced to exist in captivity. And so as we have this moment, there's like people walking around, kids in strollers, eating popcorn and candy, and all I find myself just frozen in time with this mystical creature. And so I remember I moved closer towards the glass enclosure, and it was like we locked eyes with each other, and I could see every fine detail of his mane. And all I can tell you about that moment was that lion at 15 years old put a question in my heart. And the question he put in my heart was this idea of, what is this feeling in my body, and why do I feel so instinctively drawn towards it? Like, what is it about this feeling that like I just have to move towards it? I felt like there was this intimate moment that I got to have there, and it placed that question in me, and I would spend the next 25 years of my life trying to figure out the answer to that question. There I am, I'm 15 years old, I'm a cranky teenager, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm struggling, I'm insecure, and then there's this mythological creature I see. I have this incredible experience. Something happens in my body that's undeniable. So I have that feeling in my body, but like we often do, I just discount it. And I go, that's not real life. You can't live like this. I got responsibilities. I got a job. I got a life. I can't just I can't just look at lions all day. Like, what is this thing? And so I go through my head and I'm trying to figure out, what do I do with this feeling that I've had in my body? And so I go back to normal life. And for most of my life, I would say I had a pretty good life. I lived like a 7 out of 10. And I go back to my life, and I start checking all the boxes and like being good. So I go back to my life. I graduate high school. I graduate college. I get married. I find my way through some careers. I find my way into executive coaching. after almost going bankrupt and getting into it. And at that time of my life, I was laying there contemplating thoughts of suicide. And I wondered, how could all this happen to me when I was living a pretty good life? And so in an unexpected turn of events, the woman I was married to asked me for a divorce. And it was like, I was not expecting it. And I was always a hopeless romantic, and I thought I would die holding the hands of my partner like in the movie The Notebook. There's a laugh at that. and so I was like experiencing a grief that I couldn't imagine. I didn't know what to do with. And so I had gone to Sedona I got into Sedona on what I expected to be a healing journey, but as I lay there, all I could think about was this feels like a dying journey. And I had bought a dirt bike, as one does when they get divorced, and I would ride around these trails outside of Sedona. If you've ever been to Sedona, it's like the most picturesque canyons and red rocks, and it's unreal. And I would come back on my dirt bike, and I would just I wasn't having any fun. And I remember one time I walked into the Airbnb and I had my helmet on still, and I caught my eyes in the mirror. And I had this weird thought, what you do when you're depressed, and I thought, why am I wearing a helmet? A helmet's designed to protect life. I felt like I had no life to protect. And so I felt lifeless, I felt numb. And I felt, what I really felt was like nothing. I didn't have any sort of feeling. And I wondered, how could this thing happen to me? How could this happen after I checked all the boxes, I'd done all the right things? And it shattered all these illusions that were happening that I'd had of life and what life could be, because underneath the surface of my fine life, I felt really caged. And I was in this glass enclosure of my own making. And I couldn't see the walls until they cracked. And what I realized was that I was living a good life according to what the external world told me I should like. I was making the money I wanted to. I was working with the clients that I wanted to. But what I realized was that I was disconnected from my own inner voice. I hadn't stopped to ask myself, what is it that I really want? What is it that creates aliveness for me? I hadn't paused and really thought about that. And then I wondered if maybe this happened so that I could learn how to connect to my body. Maybe this experience that I was having was all about a way for God to communicate to me how my body operates and how it's speaking to me and connecting to me and help lead me to the things that I care about the most. And thankfully, I had a lot of support as I was going through all that time. Maybe you've had frustrations too. Maybe in your life, you feel like you're living a 7 out of 10 life. It's a pretty good life. But you sense that there's still something missing within you. And yet, as I laid there on the Airbnb in Sedona, it was this really interesting thing that there was still something in me that wanted to find healing. I was laying there, and it's like I want to heal. Something wanted to find its way through me. And I realized that I could have either embraced that or I could avoid it. I could either run into the darkness or I could run from it. And what I realized was that the more that I run away from the darkness, the more that it tends to envelop me. And the more that I run into the darkness, I will actually start to find the light. And then as I'm embracing this desire to heal, there was this really interesting thing that I noticed started to happen. And that was that in what felt like a flatlined energy. Whenever I would think about the lions, there'd be this uptick. And then it'd be flat, and then I'd think about the lions, it'd be uptick. What the hell? This isn't rational. I'm in Arizona. There's no wild lions in Arizona. Why do I keep being drawn to these lions? And I don't know what that meant for me. And I don't know what that means for you, but my sense is that there's things in your life that cause an uptick in your energy. And you don't know why. But there's something in your body that unmistakably knows it's drawn to that. And that could be anything from tracking lions to holding your newborn to to falling in love, to like cooking, to dancing. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, I wonder what that is for you, that like something happens in your body, like when you watch Garland dance. And I'm embracing this desire to heal, and like, I thought back, to how one of the trip that I went and got like this lion charge that I started the story off with. I wondered. I want to tell you about how that happened was because the way it happened was I had followed this aliveness to go to this workshop where I was experiencing a lot of healing, and at that workshop, it was a 9-day workshop where I had to be off the grid, which was challenging with my job, and so I like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to go, so I went, and at that workshop I meet this incredible woman named Sarah Maya, and she ends up becoming my therapist for like the next 2 years. Even to this day. And she's been incredible in my life. But the crazier thing about it was that one time I was looking at her Instagram and I noticed that this guy named Boyd Vardy follows her on Instagram. And I was like, wait, he follows her? That's interesting. So I asked her, I said, you know that this guy Boyd follows you? And she's like, yeah, like I know him. And for all you that, like, have you ever done one of those, like, I don't know if it's a survey or you have to like answer the question of like, who's the one person that you could have dinner with on the planet? Who would it be? And Boyd Vardy was that for me times 10. It was like the only person I wanted to have dinner with. That's not true. I'd love to have dinner with all of you. But yeah, but like I wanted to talk to this guy. I'd read a couple of his books, listened to a bunch of podcasts, and I was like, there's something in this guy that I got to talk to. So I asked Sarah Maya, I said, hey, would you connect me with him? And she said, yes. And so a couple months later, I find myself on Zoom waiting for Boyd to join because he's agreed to do a call with me. And this will be a big surprise to you, but as soon as he joined, I just started crying. I was so nervous and happy and excited, and it was like a dream come true, and I was like, holy crap, I'm talking to this guy, and all these stories are coming up of like, I don't want to waste his time, what do I need to say to him, what question do I ask him? And we just have this amazing question. He has this amazing like calming energy. So the story goes on of how I kept following this aliveness in my body. And so on a call a couple weeks later with Sarah Maya, I'm doing a therapy call, and she says, I keep talking, I usually on the first 10 or 15 minutes, I just download. I don't know if you guys have therapy like that, but I just download for 10 or 15 minutes of all the crap that's going on in my head, all the feelings in my body, everything that's going on in my life, whatever. And I keep, for like months, I've been bringing up, I want to go track lions again. I want to go track lions again. I want to track, and she, 95% of the time, she was super gentle and kind, like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. And this time she pointedly, and I loved it. I loved this. One of my favorite moments with her. She looked at me and she goes, I don't believe you. And I will never forget that phrase. And I was so mad. I was like, what do you mean you don't believe me? I want to go track lions. Isn't it obvious? Like, I'm such a lion tracker, blah, blah, whatever it is. And she's like, and she said, but I like luckily had like 1% curiosity. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, I believe people want things when they start taking steps towards them. And I was like, damn it, she's right. And so we spent the next hour and a half of that therapy call really feeling into my body and what is it I wanted. And what started with, at the very beginning, I was thinking about, like, I want to try to do like 5 or 7 days, developed into, there was a moment where I knew it in my body, and it was like, I want to go for 30 days. But then, so when I get into my body, it's like, I want to go for 30 days. And I get into my head, it's like, you can't do that. That's not real life. That's not allowed here. You can't do that on this earth or whatever society I grew up in. And it's like these voices in my head of I can't do that. But it was so clear in my body, I need to go immerse myself in the wild for some reason, and I don't know why. But luckily I had enough courage to just take one step. And so she helped me plan out. She goes, David, it's just like lion tracking. You just need one track at a time. You don't need to know the next 10 years of your life. Because I would go and try to figure out, like, I'm going to go tracking this time, and I'm going to build a business, and I'm going to develop a 10-year plan. And she's like, stop it with a 10-year plan. Just figure out what the next track was. The next track was a call to Jason, our CEO, to say, can I go lion tracking for 30 days? And I was like crying, surprisingly, when I asked him, because I was so nervous about him saying no, and I'm so glad I had the courage to do that. And Jason said, hey, let's find a way to make this thing happen. And I was like, wow, okay, great. So that was track 1. Track 2 was then to figure out where to track, because you can go on safari a lot of places in Africa, but finding a place to go track is not the easiest thing, because you got to book a tracker and guides and find a place that they let you track and all this stuff, because it's not as dangerous as you think it is, but it does have some danger involved. And so So I talk to Boyd and I say, hey, Boyd, I want to go tracking. Where should I go? And he goes, David, you're not going to believe this. But the two guys I grew up tracking with, two guys named Alex and Renius, who he had written about in his books, so I'd read a bunch about them and I was like I was fanboying over them. He's like, you're not going to believe this, but they just opened a camp in South Africa focused on tracking lions. And I was like, what? The great thing was it was like a third of the price of most other safaris I'd ever been on, which is crazy. So then I say, okay, great, Boyd, will you take me tracking? And he's like, I'm not available. And I'm like, shit, well, this plan didn't work. I was like thinking everything was lined up. And then he said, I said, well, could I track with Renius? I want to track with Renius because I'd read about it in the books. He's a 62-year-old Shangaan man, right? Who's been tracking for like 40 years like a bloodhound. And so he said, well, yeah, but he's like, you got to understand, Renius is like the Michael Jordan of tracking, and he books out like a couple years in advance. And I was like super bummed because I was like, I want to go tracking in 4 months, and I want to go for a full month. So he's like, here's his number. You can reach out to his assistant and see what's up. So I reach out to his assistant. No joke, he was available for all 30 days that I wanted to go tracking with him, which was insane. I was like, so again, it's like, how is this real life? Like the camp, like Renius, the whole thing. And so 4 months later, I find myself tracking lions with Renius for 30 days in South Africa, having like the most incredible experience of my entire life, all because I followed what I knew in my body I needed to follow, something that was calling to me. And so that brings us back to the lioness I talked about at the beginning. And so that morning, as I mentioned, we'd been tracking for 4 hours, and we had seen nothing, and like literally, like it was like the bush was like just asleep. And so I remember like we couldn't hear a sound. We're like just all you could hear is the sound of your footsteps or whatever. And so we couldn't hear anything until we heard her. And I'm telling you, I know sound travels fast, but I'm pretty sure that this lion ran faster than sound because it came at us so fast. And what it was so crazy is a few crazy things that happened in that moment. One is I thought I'd feel fear. And I didn't feel fear. I felt this insane amount of aliveness. The other thing that was crazy was Renius was like, he could have just as well been eating a cheeseburger. I mean, he was like as calm as can be. He's been doing this for 40 years. It's like a normal occurrence for him. He's just like, sweet, lion ran at us. 6 feet away, you know? And so I'm losing my mind. I'm excited. I'm having a blast with it. And what's interesting is that according to society would say that lion's trying to kill you. But the thing is, that lion's not trying to kill us. That lion is literally just setting a boundary for us and letting us know that we've come too close. But if we back up and we're relaxed, everything will be okay. I'm telling you, you have never seen better boundaries in the feminine than that. Reminded me of an ex-girlfriend. Okay, that didn't work either. Okay, awesome. and so like that lion doesn't want to kill us. That lion's just setting a boundary for us. And what that lion gave me was this incredible clarity of vitality. That lion like spoke to me. And I realized that I came here to get this answer. Like this is the whole reason all this lined up was because I needed that moment in my life to get that clarity of vitality. And that lion in the zoo gave me the question of what the hell is this feeling in my body? Like, and why do I feel so instinctively and primally drawn to it? And the lioness that charged me, she gave me the answer, and she said this. She said, this is what aliveness is like. This is what I want you to follow the rest of your life. Now, I don't expect any of you to go and track lions. I realize that. Like, most of you will never go track wild lions. But what I do expect from you is that you will follow that thing, whatever that thing is that lights you up in your body instinctively. I want you to follow it, and just one track at a time. You don't need to figure out the next 10 years. I just want you to follow it one track at a time. And Joseph Campbell has this famous quote where he says, people aren't searching for the meaning of life. They're searching for the feeling of being alive. And I guarantee you there's things inside of you that will make you feel alive in ways that you've never imagined before. And I promised myself when I thought about that lion that charged me is that I would follow that feeling the rest of my life. And I followed that into coaching. I followed it into helping people heal. I followed it into building trips for people to go track lions. I followed it into a ton of failures, and I followed it into a ton of successes. But I've learned to follow that feeling. And then what I can tell you is that these types of things, you cannot think your way into it. There's no college course you can take. There's no book that you can read that will explain this for you. You have to experience it. And so you must get out and explore things in your life and notice what happens in your body when you're with certain people, when you're in certain places, when you're experiencing certain things, and notice what creates an uptick in your energy. And so what I encourage you to do is I want you to track that aliveness, and I want you to track that aliveness because that aliveness is you, and I want you to track you because at the end of the day, we weren't just tracking lions. I wasn't just tracking lions, I was tracking aliveness, I was tracking myself. And I want you to understand, walking away from here today, that the lion is actually you. Like the thing that you've always been tracking is yourself and that wild version of yourself. And so I'm here to tell you that what you're looking for is that wild and alive version of yourself, and that you can start tracking it one track at a time starting today. That's all.